Okay guys, for this video, I actually figured out what the strongest possible charge blade build you can make in this game is, as of currently. Should be noted that I'm not going to be covering Savage Axe builds, and I'm not going to be covering Elemental builds, so consider this part 1 of possibly a 3-part series, honestly. Charge blade has a lot of nuance and a lot of different builds you could potentially make, but for this video I'm going to specifically focus on Impact File. So, let's get right into it. The first build I'm going to show you right here is, actually the first build that I made for Charge Blade. And it's specifically, the point of this build was to get as high possible impact file as possible. And the perfect Charge Blade for that, this time around, is the Rajan Charge Blade. It used to be in Monster Hunter World base game, it was Diablos, but Diablos has 230 attack, but it also has negative affinities, so we're opting with this one instead. Surprisingly, you could make this build post 2.0 update. The only difference is between this and the 2.0 build is you don't have load shells, which may be a little misleading as to what it actually does, because in previous games it was magazine capacity or capacity boost. And it would give you an extra file, but for Charge Blade, it doesn't actually give you an extra file. It, like, the description of it leads you to believe that's the case, but here, what it actually says is, let's see, and increases the gun lance's shell capacity and Charge Blade's file capacity. Now, you may think it may actually give you an extra file, but as you can see in the top left, it doesn't. What happens is, with 2 levels of load shells, is you only need to have yellow files to fill them up completely, which is really nice for SAED spamming. So that's the benefit. So it's going to show you some numbers of well, let's actually go over the build really fast first, and before I show you just some numbers. As predicted, using bagel pieces, with this last update, Basilicized pieces are the best for Charge Blade and Gunlance. They provide a lot of slots, artillery, load shells, which is good on Gunlance and Charge Blade, and also some comfy with guard and guard up. So I definitely wanted to do that. We're slotting in, I think, 6 attack, because we're not going affinity on this build. And Bludgeoner as actually adding to file damage itself, because it's just adding raw attack. Offensive guard is also good if you're good at guard pointing. We have offensive guard here on the Barrett helmet by default. Comes with offensive guard. We have the other one slotted in to the boots here. Now, it's theoretically possible to get 3 offensive guard. I suppose with the right talisman you could, but you're not really missing out that much. It's level 1 is 5%, level 2 is 10, level 3 is 15. So as you can see, from 5% to 10 it doubles up, but from 10 to 15 it doesn't double up. So there's diminishing returns on the 3rd level. So you're pretty much fine with 10. The talisman is actually where I have all of my bludgeoners, so all you need to do is get 3 bludgeoners somehow. Probably you can get one on talisman easy. It's not hard to get bludgeoner on talismans, even if it's just 1 level and 2 level 2 slots. That's where I'm getting my bludgeoner from. And you will pretty much get the same damage with this consistently, because there's no negative affinity whatsoever. Should also be noted for this testing, I just I ate for Bombardier, so my oops. Didn't mean to do that. We'll edit that out in post. I'm just kidding. We don't actually edit here. We don't edit here. I'm not a YouTuber. As I was saying, file damage may be a little inconsistent, or maybe a little inflated, but because I ate for Bombardier. What is it? 97? Yeah. But it'll be a little less without it, like around 10 less. I forget the exact numbers, but eating for Bombardier does improve your file damage, despite it's not saying so. So depending on like how much of the charge blade versus the phials hit. We'll be getting around this much on the dummy. And remember these numbers because we're going to go over... Why do I keep messing up? We're going to be going over like 4 different builds. And it should be noted there... Why do I keep messing up? I think it's performance anxiety. Should be noted there are about 4 different potential builds and 1 clear winner that I didn't expect to be the clear winner, but now that I think about it, it makes perfect sense. I bet you guys can guess what it is. I'll give you a hint. It's the weapon that everyone's been telling me to like just use because it's the best. And for charge weight, it makes no difference, surprisingly. But I can explain to you why, though, specifically for charge weight. It's like, the difference is overwhelming. The answer was T-Rex, by the way. Okay, so that's build number 1. Build number 2 here is, I think this is an Nargacuga build, yeah. Is it? Yeah, this is the 100% affinity Nargacuga build. So we have about 105% affinity. Attack is significantly lower, so you'll be doing way less phial damage. But the rest of your attacks will be doing so much more. We're using Master's Touch because we actually have room for it. We actually have room to slot in 3 Master's Touch. Because we don't have any offensive guard. We don't have Bludgeoner. We're able to slot in 3 via this Talisman here. Just put in a Slaughter Talisman with 2 slots. Doesn't matter as long as you get 2 slots for the Mastery. Or for Master's Touch. Same as before, you're slotting in Crit Eye. Level 1s, put whatever, probably Speed Sharpen. But it's not that crazy of a build. This chest piece, by the way, the Renpelos, is just basically up to preference. You can basically put almost whatever chest piece you want. You can put the fishy one. Well, I call it the fishy chest piece. This is probably better because I think it gets slightly more armor. It's probably better to put on the fishy chest piece, but I just like this just because. But yeah, just slot in your crit eye, weakness exploit, crit boost. Load shells and artillery, you're getting it from the armor. Well, you're getting it from this and these boots. But as you can see, the previous damage. Let's 152. You'll find that almost all of these builds, surprisingly, have very similar damage, which is actually really cool. And it also really surprised me that the Bludgeoner build actually was able to almost match the damage exactly of the Nargacuga build. The Nargacuga Max Affinity build. So that's really useful information to find out. That even though the phial damage what this lacks in phial damage just makes up in attack for everything else. And what the Bludgeoner build lacks in other attacks, critting, it makes up in just raw phial damage. So it actually balances out, so I'm giving kudos to Capcom for balancing the weapons that way, at least when it comes to impact phial charge blades. Yeah, that's an extra hit, so that's what hit for 1332. So kudos to them for actually balancing charge blades. Those two charge blade styles, build styles. But after this build, there's a couple more I'm gonna show you guys. So it's almost identical, surprisingly, to the Rajan build. Now there is a variation in the Rajan build I did make, but I wasn't able to get it right. If you have a better Talisman, I wanted to see exactly what would happen if you just put Affinity and didn't do Bludgeoner. And it's actually slightly better than the Nargacuga. Slightly better. The Nargacuga was only slightly better, just slightly better than just the pure Bludgeoner build. And surprisingly, as you can see, I'm out of practice with my charge blade. Surprisingly, this green sharpness build, not even Bludgeoner. We're not doing Bludgeoner on this build. We're doing crit plus plus phials here. Surprisingly, this is actually able to average out more than the Nargacuga, but just slightly. Just slightly it was able to average out. But I found that very interesting. The only downside is you need a little more investment to make this build work. Sadly, I am down on this build. I'm down 1 crit eye. I went down 1 crit eye to get the 2 load shells. So ideally, what you want for this build specifically is you would want, as you can see, I just swapped out the chest piece for funsies here. But you'd want a Talisman, ideally, that had 1 load shells and 2 level 2 slots. That's ideally if you want to get this build right, or 1 crit eye and 2 level 2 slots. Actually, I could probably get 7 crit eye if I use my 3 crit eye Talisman, but I'm not gonna doing that right now. But if you can get this to 7 affinity, this actually is my preferred comfy build for Charge Blade, because you don't have to worry about okay, that I don't know why that one did so little damage. You don't have to worry about sharpness in your critting, which is always fun. Crits are fun. It's always fun when you crit. I don't know why that one did so little damage. Must have missed something. Okay, yeah, see? I hit the wrong thing or something. I'm making it a point to like land it on the weak point here. Files where the files land doesn't matter, but where the other hits do does, so okay. But as you can see, it's about the same as the Nargacuga. And on chance, sometimes actually does a little more, which is why this is my preferred build for just comfy. If you can like max out the crit eye, I wasn't able to, but I'm pretty sure I can if I make the right build. But the 3 builds are damn near identical. Now, the one build that does stand out from everyone else, sadly, is the Tigrex. And even and it really surprised me, because I was only able to get 60% affinity, 60% base. I'm able to get 60% base on a weak point, mind you. 5 crit eye, and this was still vastly outperforming, which makes you wonder what's possible if you were able to max out the crit eye somehow. But I was able to get 5 crit eye. I'm prioritizing load shells simply because having load shells makes it to where you just get your files faster and to spam more Unga Bunga SAD, so that's why I'm prioritizing load shells. I put protective polish because there is no way you're really going to be able to maintain this white sharpness otherwise, so I have my Talisman with 2 levels of protective polish here. So other than that, the builds are all pretty similar. But you'll see with the Tigrex build that even though your affinity is only 60%, because your phials hit so hard because of how high your attack is, and because you have white sharpness with attack that high, even though you have like a larger range for your damage, it just averages out just absurdly high, just way higher than the other 3 builds. And like Tigrex and Nargacuga are pretty similar in damage with like Tigrex for most weapons. Tigrex is like outperforms slightly more, but for Charge Blade, if you're going phials, like it's a pretty stark difference for having way less crit. You know, having only 60% crit and doing this much more damage. And it's all because of the phials. Because you have so much attack, it's the phials that's making the difference. It's all the phials. The phials are doing much higher damage but the your regular attacks have a larger range. But because the files are so consistent and so consistently larger in damage, bigger in damage, and your melee range here is a larger range, but it can can potentially crit higher. But as you can see, it's like about on average like 150 like overall higher on this combo. It's pretty silly, and like your low end is going to be the high end of the other 3 builds. So if you just want like the highest possible like damage overall, Tigrex is the way to go, sadly. If you want to be cool and different, you know, be a hipster, do Nargacuga. I personally like the look of the Nargacuga Charge Blade. Rajan one looks pretty cool too. But as you can see, sadly, Tigrex is the clear winner here, even with way less affinity. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video and got some insight into Impact Phial Charge Blade builds. If you have any questions or want to make fun of me or whatever, or judge me, I'll leave a comment below, leave a like, subscribe, and come say hi to me on Twitch. I stream every single day. So until next time, bye-bye and good night.